other people have shown me the way, and I want to help other people. And you know, when especially newer agents come to me and they say like, they're asking me all these questions about the business, I really try to help them.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Hey, welcome back. My name is Kevin C. McIntosh. This is The Closing Table. I am your host, and per usual, we like to welcome another very knowledgeable guest to The Closing Table. We want to welcome Lee Jennings. How you doing, Lee?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being here bright and early in the morning, or it could be afternoon, evening, whenever someone is watching this video. But thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule nonetheless. So we're going to start off some things with an icebreaker. If our audience already listens to the show, you know that we start off things with an icebreaker. Yours is called This or That, Lee. It's essentially just two, I guess we could say contradicting words and or phrases related to real estate. You tell me which one you prefer, which one you choose. And if you like, you can share it. Tell us why. Also, you ready?
Okay.
All right, let's go through it. First one, walkability or privacy?
Ooh, I'd say walkability. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Property management or self-management?
I have to go with property management there. Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Solar panels or traditional power source?
Ooh, I'll go with solar. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hardwood floors or wall-to-wall carpet?
Oh, hardwood floors all the way.
Nice. I'm a little bit of mixture of both. Last one, seller financing or bank financing?
Ooh, seller financing, 1,000,000% on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Interesting responses. Let's keep it going, Lee. Thank you for playing our quick little icebreaker with us, man. So let's get into who you are as a person, as an individual. If you got some time in about 60 seconds or less, Lee, tell us who you are outside of real estate.
Yeah. So I am probably first and foremost, I'm a dad. I'm a father to a 5-year-old little boy, and
There you go.
other than that, who I am is kind of consumed by outdoor pursuits, whether it be skiing, climbing, pack rafting. I'm always planning my next adventure. And that's honestly part of the reason why I got into real estate years ago, is because I love outdoor adventures, and it can sometimes allow for a more flexible schedule, being self-employed and all that. So I'm always planning, climbing and mountaineering trips to far-flung places, and I end up telling my friends about them, and most of the time they tell me that they don't even know where that is. So
I know you got your own little secret hangouts that you go and get your hike on and everything.
That's
pretty
right.
nice right there.
Yeah.
Hey, so with that being said, that leads into my next question, because I'm assuming, because you're doing a lot of, hiking and going on mountains, that you kind of live within proximity of that. So first and foremost, let's describe your current market that you're serving. Can you describe it geographically for me and our audience, for people who may have never been there, and then get into some of the economics in regards to real estate?
Sure. So I am an agent in the Metro Seattle market, Seattle, Washington. So we are it's a tech rich city. It is, it's very limited geographically. Like, we're essentially on two peninsulas that meet each other in the middle, tons of water in all directions. And that consequently, sort of similar to like a San Francisco Bay Area market, the buildable area is very limited. And so that creates, our real estate market is extremely expensive. King County, which is that county, which, has the whole Puget Sound area. The average price of a single family home in our market is in the mid 800s. Yeah. So it's an expensive place to live, housing wise, at least in the immediate area. and it's a beautiful place. I mean, we're surrounded by mountains. Mount Rainier, North
Nice.
Cascades
Right.
National Park, Olympic National Park. There's water in all directions. In fact, where I live in North Seattle, pretty much if you go in any direction, you're going to hit water very quickly, which it also causes, obviously, um, there's folks that live on houseboats. And in fact, I have a couple friends who are agents who focus on
Houseboats.
that niche, but it's very limited. And it's funny, I get inquiries constantly for people looking for buildable land, and there's just not much available because our little area is just built out completely.
Mm. That's interesting. First of all, thank you for describing the market like that. Because I that really paints a different picture for Seattle for me. So now, first and foremost, so I know what you mean when you say it's like two peninsulas, right? I remember, look, if I can just go off a American map, just off the top of my dome, like there's like you're talking about that very corner piece of Washington. That's where Seattle is, right? Where
Yep.
those two little, so it's like right that this close to Canada too, right?
Correct. I mean, I mean,
Wow.
driving wise, we're an hour and a half, 2 hours south of Canada. But if you look at the map of
Mm,
Washington, we have the Olympic Peninsula, which is this gigantic peninsula that shoots out on the western side of the state. And
right.
then you have Puget Sound, which is this enormous bay, water that comes all the way down to Olympia. And then you also have Lake Washington, which is on the east side of Seattle. So, and then if you look at the city itself, Seattle proper, you've
Mhm,
got a peninsula. It's coming out of the south that comes all the way up, which and encompasses downtown and South Lake Union, which is where Amazon is headquartered. And then
right, right.
immediately north of that, you have this canal, which is essentially a shipping lane. And
Mm,
then you have all of like North Seattle, University of Washington, and then north of there.
mm,
So I think that's what drives prices in our market so high, is that the buildable land area is limited, and
right.
we're a hilly city. I mean, you'll know. I mean, if you haven't been to our area, try to ride a bike, in Seattle, and you'll
Right,
figure it
that's an
out quickly.
exercise, I imagine,
Yeah.
right?
And also, consequently, there's land that's buildable. I mean, the excavation cost can be a huge chunk of your build out, which people don't think
Mm,
about. That they think, I mean, and I have people who come to me all the time, and they're like, I'm looking for a lot that flat and buildable, and I'm like, well, it's going to be challenging because
right.
there really isn't anything, and your excavation cost, even if you do find something, can be significant.
Wow, wow, wow. All things that you just don't think about. But those are all things that I'm just like you spoke on 100% sure are factors as to why you said the median price, the average price, $800,000. Did
Yep,
you say that?
about eight
Okay.
fifty for a single family home. You can get into a condo. You can get into a condo. I mean, something very basic in the mid to high 300s, and then all the way up from there. And
Ooh,
yeah,
wee,
and
wee,
and the
wee.
number of homes in Seattle that are over a million right now is a huge percentage. I
I
mean,
bet. I
yeah,
bet.
probably
I
forty
mean,
percent of the doors.
another tech-based company, Amazon headquartered there, the beautiful scenery, the weather. I
Hmm.
mean, it makes sense when you add all of that up, but man, 800, I mean, coming from where we're headquartered in Michigan,
Yeah.
that sounds crazy.
Yeah,
That's like three homes.
affordability is a major issue in Seattle. I mean, I mean,
Oh
that's also
man.
consequently why we have a housing crisis, or I mean, it's
Mm,
very
yeah,
challenging,
yeah,
especially for first time home buyers, to get into the market in Seattle. And I always tell people,
yeah.
don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. People try to time the
Mm.
market, and they want to wait for like the absolute best deal. And I'm like, if you keep waiting, the market is just going to keep passing you by.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I have
Yeah.
people say to me, oh, well, I could never live in a condo, or, oh, I don't, here's a, like, I'll send them like a very modestly sized home, and they'll be like, oh, I could never live in that, that's too small. And I'm like, if you don't buy this in months from now or a year or 2 years down the road, when you want to try to get into something larger, it's going to be impossible because the
Oh
market's just going to
yeah.
pass you by.
Oh man. I mean, I'm pretty sure in that market, just like in any other market, if you look back 10, even 20 years, probably not even that, maybe even 5 years ago, you see the home prices and the difference that it's been. You'll
It reminds me of a conversation I had about a year ago with a guy who bought a lot. He bought a an older Rambler, so one level house, very
Mhm.
modestly sized, like probably a 1,400 square foot single family home, all one level on an acre lot, one block off the water in Kirkland, which is a neighboring community, which is extremely high end. He bought that in the early 80s and sat on it for whatever it is, 40 years now.
Yeah.
That he said that he hoped that it would one day be worth $500,000. He was like, that was my pie in the sky. Oh my gosh, I hope it could ever be worth that much. Well, today it's worth about 2.3 million. And that
Easily.
just that lot. And wait, it gets better. He owns, I think, three of them that are all in the same spot. They're about 2 blocks off the water in Kirkland. And he's gonna, I
Whew.
mean, he's gonna divest eventually. He's gonna cash out. And it was funny. I was trying to get him to list it with me, and he won't list it with any agent because he's just opposed to that or whatever. And I went and
What?
walked
So
it, and the house itself was nothing to get excited about. It was very basic, most basic finishes imaginable. And it was funny because he just, it's like he I don't know, he just was very his look at, his approach to the market is unique because
Mhm.
he has all this very desirable real estate, and he's just very
Right.
opposed to working with an agent.
Right. And he's had it since the 80s. He's seen the way the market's fluctuated and different things. So I imagine he's seen a lot, been through a lot when it comes to the real estate market, but that is wow. Like I definitely get it. The fact that he wants to. So is he interested in selling it himself, like a for sale by owner
Yes,
type
so
thing?
I met him
Really?
because it was for sale by owner, and I
That's a
went and walked
lot.
it. And the awful truth is that the likelihood of him selling it by owner is relatively low. Not because I'm so great or any other agent is so
Nah,
wonderful.
I know what you mean.
The reality is for him to find an investor or somebody who is going to do that and take that down and then redevelop it into what it probably the highest and best use, the the likelihood of him finding that person is relatively low,
Mm,
because that person's going to have to cash him out at 2.3 million, have another
yeah.
significant amount of money, to actually invest in the home and whatever you want to do with it. I think it was even zoned for multi-unit. I think you could put, multi-unit in there. You could do all kinds of things.
Mm,
Probably one of the best locations that I've seen in the Puget Sound area. And I mean, just west facing views of Lake Washington. You could see downtown Seattle behind it, the Olympics. I mean, it was incredible. So
oof.
he knows what he has. It's just him trying to divest it. It's going to take a long time.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so we haven't even really gotten into some of these topics, but you already started off interesting. Another thing I gotta ask you about houseboats.
Oh yeah.
Houseboats, like okay, so I get you're right there by the water, but that's an actual thing. That's something I only seen in the movies. So
Yep.
people are
Yep.
actually living on these boats.
I know a couple of local agents who are phenomenal agents, who that's their specialty. And I always, I get asked about it occasionally from buyers, people that are curious about houseboats. And the thing about a houseboat is, and they're everywhere. So I'm a big runner. So I run around Lake Union a lot, which is like 13 miles. And if you run around
Mm-hmm.
Lake Union, you're passing the whole way around is communities of houseboats. Now, mind you, these are homeowners associations. They're gated. I mean, they're private, and you're in Lake Union with a
What?
houseboat, and you're either paying for mortgage or the mortgage is deeded, and you own it. And the houseboat itself is this, literally, it's a giant floating house. And I tell people, imagine a similar size single family home to the houseboat that you're looking at, double the cost of it. So
Mm,
just take whatever you would have spent on that house and double it. So if it was a $500,000 home to build,
no.
you're looking at $1 million for a houseboat, and then you're
Oh my
you're looking at the
goodness.
maintenance on top of that. So it's a very specialty niche lifestyle, and if you want that, it's wonderful. And I know people who live on them and they rave about it, but it's not for the faint of heart. The cost is it's a different level, and the
Oh my
maintenance is
god.
a whole different level. So like when you call somebody up and you're on a houseboat and you need some sort of maintenance done, the
Right.
price tag is different. And I think
Oh
it's
my
just
god.
it's a different it's a whole different niche. And I know two people locally in the market who are very into listing and selling houseboats, and they're phenomenal agents, and I have a lot of respect for them because
Uh-huh.
it's a very unique niche. But yeah, it's a thing here in Seattle, and it is somewhat limited because moorage is hard to come by. So
You say wait, you say Morich? What are you saying
moorage, yeah.
exactly?
So so the question becomes, if you own the houseboat, where is it physically? Like where are
Mm-hmm.
you keeping it?
Right.
And that's where it's
Correct.
moored. And sometimes that is leased, and sometimes
Oh.
that is owned. It's deeded. And so that's a
Oh.
whole other cost, and typically speaking, what the boats that these folks are listing and selling are a houseboat that's sitting there, and then the moorage is deeded, so it's always been there. And then
Mm-hmm.
occasionally you'll have to do maintenance on the bottom to make sure it's not getting messed up or whatever happens over time with a houseboat. um,
Wow.
but yeah, it's a whole different like subset. And I mean, I've looked at it, and I've even looked at living on a boat because you can get live aboard moorage at some of the marinas here in town.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different lifestyle, and it's definitely a different cost structure. So you got to really know what you're doing before you dive into that. No pun intended.
Oh my goodness. I know, right? Oh man, that's so crazy. I could ask a million questions about that. So, okay, so my other only question about that, and then we can move forward. Cause I could ask 1,000 questions. My only other one was, so I'm assuming like this isn't like the type of property that a family would live on. You're seeing probably
Oh
like a
no,
lot of
you
single
can live
people
as a
there.
family. You can. I mean, there's families who live
Families out there
there.
too.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my god!
yeah.
Imagine growing up living on a houseboat, bro.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I mean,
crazy.
it runs the gamut. I mean, I'd say it's a good number of retired people who just like the lifestyle. There's families, there's single
Right,
people. I
right.
mean, whatever. It doesn't, it's just, you just have to be willing to pay a premium for the type of housing that you're going to get.
Right.
And,
That's the
and,
one.
and
That's the one
people,
thing you stress. Like, yeah, it's cool, but
yeah,
it's gonna be
yeah.
a pretty penny.
I mean, you
Yeah,
really got to want it because it's not, I mean, it doesn't
man,
make
that's
a lot of
crazy.
sense financially. I mean, just being blunt. I mean, and I see like I'll see like a one bedroom houseboat, and the price tag on the boat itself is not bad. It might be in like the mid fours, but then you add in the maintenance cost and the moorage,
For
and it's
sure.
like a whole, I mean, it just doesn't pencil out. I mean, it's
All
really
right,
something.
man. Okay, Lee. See, I will ask so many more. Let's just keep it moving, man. That was interesting, though. I'm glad you even brought that up. Okay, so you mentioned your brokerage that you're with, EXP Realty, correct?
Yeah,
You mentioned that they grew in volume and sales in 2022 when existing home sales were down,
right.
leading the industry in growth and increasing its agent base. So, what strategies or factors do you think enable EXP Realty to increase its closed transactions and sales volume?
I mean, my experience with EXP, I've been with EXP now for 2.5 years, and my experience has just been, and I think a lot of people at the brokerage would concur, is just that there's a lot of collaboration that goes on. I think it's like 38 out of the 50 US states, the top individual agent in that state is with EXP now.
Oh,
And those
nice.
people are turning around and being servant leaders and sharing what they know with the other agents at the brokerage. And that's having an effect. It's just driving volume all over the country because they can share what they know about being top producers and help other agents be successful. And I think you're seeing that in the bottom line because people are doing more business when they come to EXP. And I think it's just it's something it's funny, you almost have to be at the brokerage to really understand what that's like. I mean, I was with several of the brokerages before this one. I was with KW, I was with Remax, I was with Century 21, which are all phenomenal companies, by the way. And
Hmm.
the level of collaboration and the willingness to help the other agents has I've never experienced it um, like I have at EXP.
That's interesting because I mean I don't know too much about EXP Realty or either of the brokerages for that matter, but I if I'm not mistaken, EXP Realty is a technology base. It's more
Right.
of like
So
e-commerce in a way.
we're a cloud-based brokerage, and we're
Okay,
in
cloud
like
base.
22 countries. There's no physical offices.
Right.
Yeah, so we have 90,000 agents all over the world that are part of the platform, and and so they essentially, the model is that they take all of the money that they would have spent on the brick and mortar, big offices and all that stuff, and they give it
Uh-huh.
back to the agents in the form of a revenue share. So rather than having and it's funny because a lot of the rival brokerages that are prominent in Seattle, in my town, they have these elaborate physical offices. And then even right in my own neighborhood, there's some brokerages that have these huge like brick and mortar offices and signage and
Mm,
lights. And I mean
yeah.
I can't even imagine what some of these places cost.
Yeah.
And EXP takes a totally different approach. They take all the money they would have spent on that, on those things, and they share it back with the agents in the form of a revenue share. And then they also have this EXP University, which is this training platform that's online. And rather than put all their money into the brick and mortar offices, they actually take like all the revenue, and they train you. And
Mm,
it's online classes all the time, and you're learning from not the best agent in your office. You're learning from the best agent in the company, like on a global level, at whatever thing you're trying to learn, which is totally different. I mean, when I was at other brokerages, it would be like, okay, Ed here is the best at this niche, and he happens to be in our office. Well, at EXP, you're gonna learn from somebody who's doing 200 million a year in another market potentially at that particular thing that you're trying to learn how to do, which is worlds different.
right. Right. That's interesting with that being said, because you said you feel like you got the most, I guess, attention to detail slash training through EXP Realty than the other ones, and they have actual physical locations that you can go to.
Right.
That's what just caught me off guard. So like pretty much all of your resources are online.
Yeah, it's
Yet you
something
feel
that's
like what
very
they
it's
provided is yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead, please.
it's something that's very hard to grasp if you haven't been at the brokerage.
I get it. I
But
get it.
it's like it's like they take all of the funding that would have gone into these physical offices, and rather than that, they put you in front of the people that you really need to be in front of and be around.
Right. Right.
And that has been the difference. I mean, that's really, and I mean, I even see it in the quality of the people who want to join EXP, because we have people joining every day who are top producers, in their market, and they
Right.
want to be in this environment because that's the environment that's been created. And I credit that to Glenn Sanford, who's the CEO of the company, and he actually is in Washington. He's in Bellingham.
Okay.
But he's a former Keller Williams agent who got an idea to
Mm.
reinvent this brokerage model, and he created this company, with all, and I think he kind of saw it into the future and saw kind of what it could become,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what happened, and it's created this environment where people can thrive. And I think now, especially because transactions are down all over the country. I mean, you're seeing it 40%. Some markets it's more.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
EXP is taking market share because we don't have the brick and mortar cost, and as the saying goes, we were built for this.
Oh man, oh, that's a nice saying first and foremost. But man, that's just so crazy because first and foremost, I'm shocked but not surprised, right? I was saying that from a perspective that I agree with that model. I agree with the not having the physical locations if it's not necessary. If you have people who can work remotely or work, from anywhere, I believe in that. I mean, I've worked for places where I felt like I don't really need to be here. And with
Hmm.
that being said, you could probably automate a lot of things. You can save on costs for utilities and rent or whatever the case. I mean, I felt like that as an employee. It's ultimately up to them, but I get that model, and I agree with it. That's why I said
Well,
I'm
and
I'm
there
shocked but
and
not
I
surprised.
guess another thing I would mention, and the what they've really tried to do is they've tried to create the most agent focused brokerage out there. And one way I will illustrate that completely is there is a large
Hmm.
brokerage in Seattle in my market, very successful, huge brand name locally. I mean, probably the top brand in our market. They have physical offices all over town, and if you're a Seattle agent and you're watching this, you already know who I'm talking about. I'm not even going to say their name. I don't even have to.
I
But
feel
they have
you.
these large physical offices. If you start, like, let's say you go out, you get your license, you're brand new, you start with them, okay? You walk in the door, just talking over the compensation plan. What can you offer me as a brand new agent? Their compensation plan to start is a 50-50 split and a 33,000 cap. So you don't go to 100% until you pay the company $33,000. Now, as a brand new agent
Oh,
who has
wow.
never done a transaction, that is a massive hill to climb. You may
Mm.
have the benefit of their brand name and putting their brand name on your business card or your marketing or whatever it is, but I can tell you that they're going to take half your check until you pay them 33 grand. And I
Right.
mean, in our market, even in a high end market, you're still going to have to do a significant number of deals to get yourself to where you're earning 100%.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reality, and I mean, EXP is cloud based, so we don't have all these physical offices, and yet our comp plan is 1,000 times more agent focused and better for the agent. And that
Mm.
was what I think our CEO and our executive team had in mind when they created the company. And the crazy part is, wait, it gets better. All they do all day is sit around and think about how can we make the experience better for the agent.
For
And it
sure.
shows. It completely
Yeah.
shows.
As they should, as they should. As someone who really cares about their brand and their employees, first and foremost, the fact that they have revenue share just lets you know how much they want to have their employees stay on and be invested in the company. And another thing is, a lot of these companies, especially nowadays, I mean, we're seeing commercial real estate, like, for especially for business, that commercial space is diminishing. It's not what it once was, is what I will say. But also, nowadays, if you're going to have an actual physical location or office for people to come into, with people having the option to work remotely, you almost have to invest in a lot of that flash and the extra pool tables and the table tennis tables to kind of keep people engaged, to make them want to come to that physical location. Other than that, they're probably out there looking like, I don't really need to be here. I could do this remotely. And then they look at
Mhm.
other options. That's just my perspective.
No,
So
no, it's
I
true.
I, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, at my last office, I remember when I left, they offered me they offered me an office just to stay. Like if I would stay, they're
Mm,
like, we'll give you this office if you want to, just as an incentive to stay. And it didn't make sense, so I didn't
not much
stay.
value.
But it
Yeah.
was like, I appreciate that on a level, but it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't really. It's just not going to change my world. It's just,
There you
and I
go.
would rather have a better comp plan. And I mean, EXP, like I get stock, I get revenue share with every transaction I close. It's just so much better on so many different levels, and that's this monster that Glenn Sanford created, and and it continues to grow.
There it is. All right. Shout out to Glenn doing your thing, man. Being innovative. Hey, so you specialize in investment properties and you are actively looking for investors and wholesalers to partner with, from what I've seen. So, what are the benefits of a real estate agent partnering with a real estate wholesaler?
That's
That's my real
it's funny.
question.
It's something I've never really understood about the business until now. I mean, I've been
Hmm.
licensed for like 18 years, and especially when I first got licensed, there was this, I don't want to say animosity, but there was this idea that like the retail world, being an agent, and wholesale world were totally separate, and you should keep them that way, and there shouldn't be any collaboration, and there shouldn't be, and you certainly shouldn't have agents trying to do wholesale transactions. And now that I've learned about the business, I've done property management, I used to be a loan officer, mortgage broker, I used to work for a title company. I've kind of seen it from all sides, and that's what's made me realize that the wholesale segment of the business is a huge part of the business, and it's not going anywhere. It's going to keep being a huge part of our industry. and I want to embrace that. And so I would rather collaborate, do some of my own deals on that side of the business, and help other people. At least have that as a tool in your tool belt, because a lot of agents are fearful, frankly, of that side of the business. They're like, oh, it must be illegal, or it must, whatever. And the reality is it's going to happen whether or not you like it. So you might as well try to collaborate and learn from people who are doing it on that side.
Mm,
So I've learned about creative financing and wholesaling and all these other things. And that's not to say that every deal I'm involved in, has that as an aspect of it,
right.
but it's something that I don't shy away from. And look, one of the questions you asked me at that icebreaker was, seller financing. And I've done some deals that involve and that can be an awesome tool. I mean, I've had some great transactions over the last few years that were seller financed, and it's something that people sometimes fear, but there's really no reason to fear that. It can be an amazing tool. It can help you on tax advantages. It can help a buyer get into something that they maybe wouldn't have been able to. It can help achieve a highest and best use for a property that is
Hmm.
not lendable for whatever reason. So yeah, it's something that I want to get more into, and it's something that I wish more agents would embrace.
Right, right. I'm not mad at that. I get it. I mean, collaboration over competition any day, all day. If you can find a way for it to be a win-win situation, ultimately, well. You said people fear the seller financing. When you
Yeah, I
say
mean, they
people,
fear they fear
from what
creative
perspective?
financing strategies in general, because they I think it's part of it is because there's this thing in mortgage documentation called the due on sale clause, where if a particularly when a seller has a mortgage on a property and they
Hmm.
allow a buyer to come in, or a wholesale investor to come in and purchase that property subject to the existing mortgage and take over the payments, there is a thing in the mortgage documentation on the existing mortgage called the due on sale clause, where if the person who makes the payments isn't residing at the property, and the lender becomes aware of that, they can call the loan due. And it's this whole
Right.
there's a lot of fear surrounding that, and just on the legalities of other strategies that are similar, well, like that. And I think a
Mm.
lot of it is really, it's not very well founded. I mean, it doesn't happen very much. I mean, it's kind of something where, you know, the reality is that most of the wholesalers I know, just like most of the agents that I know, are trying to do the right thing. Are there some bad apples out there? Sure, but most of them are trying to do things the right way, and they just employ it as a strategy to get somebody to a better position. Because in a wholesale transaction, the only way that it works is if everybody feels like they won.
For sure.
Buyer, seller,
For
wholesaler,
sure.
everybody has to feel like they got out of the deal what they wanted to get out of
Hmm.
the deal, which is important.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree. That's what it takes right there. We spoke earlier in regards to you said something like basically the limited land that Seattle has for development. But recently, from what I've seen, Washington governor signed a new law to help increase the housing supply. I mean, obviously, you would know a little bit more from your perspective, but my question regarding that is how you think these legalizing duplexes and fourplexes in most of these neighborhoods will impact the housing supply and affordability within the
I
state.
mean, it's a positive step forward. It's about 10 years too late, maybe 20, but it's a positive
Mm,
step forward. I mean, it will increase housing supply, which is sorely needed. I don't know. I mean, it's not going to have I mean, we're so far. I mean, I mean, and you probably heard about the inventory crisis nationwide. I mean, there's not enough
right.
inventory nationwide. Seattle is the tip of the spear when it comes to that. I mean, there's areas in the city where we're below 1 month inventory, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's not helping. Obviously, it's keeping prices really high, and
Yeah.
it just housing affordability in general is just a huge issue. They have to eliminate more red tape. I mean, it's still way too hard to build in King County. The permitting process is really difficult, and I hear that just from everyone I talk to who's involved trying to get projects out of the ground.
Right.
And neighboring counties aren't much better. There's there's a lot of red tape and challenges. So hopefully it'll eliminate some of that. But I mean, we have a homelessness crisis in Seattle. Part of that is
Mm,
exacerbated by housing affordability. It's obviously a big issue with
yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
and that goes for rental housing as well as purchasing. Because, like I was saying, I mean, as a first time buyer, Seattle is just daunting. I mean, if you don't have a lot of extra money, it's just difficult to get into something here. And if you're like a young family and you're trying to rent something and you're not even in a position to buy yet, rents are really expensive in Seattle, and
Mm,
that's having all this extra housing will help. It's not going to change it entirely because
right.
I mean, we are severely underbuilt.
Mm. That's a sad thing to hear and
Hmm.
understand. I mean, but nonetheless, I mean, like you said, I understand the effort, and from your perspective, I can even understand why you feel like they're a little bit late on the on the action. But I mean, yeah, nonetheless, hopefully, as long as it's affordable, it should be getting people off the streets or getting people into situations that they could actually afford to pay. So
It's a
beyond,
Yeah, I mean,
oh,
it's a balancing act. I mean, it's like on the other side of it, I mean, you can't have people essentially like flouting the zoning laws. I mean, we have people
yeah,
who are
yeah.
living in boats that like are
Yeah,
not, they're just
and
like
when you
out in
think
the
about it,
water. We have
yeah.
people living in school buses. We have people living in, tiny homes and in properties that aren't zoned for that, and they're angering their neighbors. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that this is having an effect, and it's like it's a real balancing act because it's like there's even raw land in Seattle that could be developed that's not being developed for whatever reason. And there's people saying, well, let people go live there in tents. And I mean, this is a huge issue, like citywide. I mean, it's something that I think a lot of the people in the city, good people, are trying to deal with this issue. It's a big issue. And
Hmm.
me being a real estate agent, I mean, I see it. I mean, I'm dealing with it all the time. We're trying to, and it frustrates me when I see, bureaucracy that's kind of anti-development, anti-growth, because we need the housing supply so badly.
For sure.
That's it's a really difficult thing, and it's an issue that just hits really close to home.
No, I get it. I get it. I mean, so you kind of spoke on it a little bit just now, but what creative solutions would you have if it were up to you to help, with
I
this
I mean,
housing
I
crisis?
think it's just potentially having a moratorium on some of the fees that they charge for permitting and speeding the process up, and also just
Mm,
increasing the density. I mean, they've worked to upzone a lot of parts of Seattle, and they've created these like economic opportunity zones, and they're working to like upzone. And I think they should just do it even more. I mean, we need to get through this period, and right now we're in this period of obviously crazy high inflation nationwide. That's been all over the news. Very low housing inventory, and something needs to give, because there's a lot of good people out there right now that cannot afford housing in Seattle, period.
yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and I mean, to say nothing of the homelessness crisis. This is people who are working, who have a good salary, and they can't afford to live in proximity to where they work for whatever reason. And it's causing a lot. I mean, housing insecurity is causing a lot of other problems in our community. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just what it comes down
Oh, that is a great point. It's a little bit deeply rooted than what it looks like on the surface, for sure, for sure.
to. Hmm.
Lee, looking back on your journey, what key lessons have you learned about yourself, the industry, and the importance of serving others?
Oh man, I mean, I love that question because it made me think about when I got into the business, and also now. And I mean, something I think about a lot, and I always tell people, what is lacking is not knowledge. What is lacking is motivation, and that's why the failure rate. One of the reasons why the failure rate in our industry is so high. But
That's a good
I
point.
have other agents reach out to me all the time for help. I reach out to other agents for help. Other people have shown me the way, and I want to help other people. And you know, especially newer agents come to me and they say, like, they're asking me all these questions about the business, I try to really, I really try to help them. um, and because there's this idea, I mean, we're in a competitive industry, of course, everybody's trying to like do the most volume, and and like, you know reach awards and all these things and goals they have, but you really need to give more. I mean, that's
Mm,
what it comes down to. I just met an agent who's in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is actually very similar to our market here. It's a high end market, and he's incredibly giving. I mean, he gives to the other agents around him. He's a coach and he coaches people, but he also just gives freely of his knowledge and his time, which I think is so important. And I think, particularly when I first got into the business, it was hard to find people like that. You don't really
mm,
know where to turn as a newer agent in the business. You don't really know, who you should talk to, or who you can trust, really.
mm. It's
And
hard to
who
find people like that in most industries,
Yeah,
honestly.
it's just hard
Yeah.
to know, and I think that it's so important, especially for the people who are in a position to mentor others, and are doing a lot of volume, and are really, you know who are high producing folks, to help
Hmm.
people around you, help them become, and because you'll be better for it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Anybody that reaches out to me that wants to learn about the business and wants to be, and to grow, I try to help them do that. And every time it comes back to me, every time I end up growing as well in the process. They say that's the best way to learn something, is to teach it.
Mm, mm. Mm. Okay, that one I'll have to watch this episode again, let that marinate a little bit. So those lessons, I mean, just real quick, I think you pretty much answered the question already, but how do you feel those lessons shape your perspective on your future and your aspirations as a professional?
I mean, I think it's maybe caused me to, like, I never really wanted to have a team. I mean, because I've managed a lot of people in the past. I used to own two property management companies, and I kind of did all that. And at one point I had employees, and that was like a whole different world. And I kind of, when I first got into the business in Seattle, I didn't want to have a team because I didn't want to manage people. And now it's causing me to question that a little bit, because I enjoy helping others in the business. And that's one great thing about
Mm,
EXP, is that I can recruit agents into my group at EXP, and I can help them grow. And I don't have to necessarily manage them on the day to day, but I can help them grow, and I can help them in the business. And so, I don't know if I'll ever have my own team here locally. Right now, I'm, just a solo agent, but it's something that I would potentially look at down the road, maybe more. Not because I want to make more money, but because I like helping other people. And that's something that I've really, over the last few years, I've been really, really lucky to have the people around me who have helped me grow. And I want to pay it forward. That's really what it
mm.
comes down to.
Very honorable, man. Very honorable. Well, thank you so much, Lee, taking time out of your day to be with us here on the closing table, pulling up a seat. We definitely appreciate that. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
Yeah, just text me or call me. My cell is 206-419-8303, or my email is leejenningsrealtor@gmail. And just to anybody in the real estate agent community out there, if I can help you be more successful, or grow your business, please, reach out to me. And to anybody in the local area who's looking to buy, sell, or invest, I'd love to help. I'm in North Seattle. That's kind of my focus area, but I've sold
Okay.
properties in 8 counties, the whole Puget Sound region, and I'd love to help you. So thanks for having me on the show.
Exciting, man. Lee, thank you for coming. We appreciate you at this point. And for our YouTube watchers, if you gotten to this point in the video, this is your chance to hit that like button. Please and thank you. Also, make sure you share our content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Lee, I always leave our audience with a question for them to think on their way out the door. Audience, aka fellow agents, what professions are key within your circle of real estate partnerships? Think about it and leave the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.